I guess it depends where you're watching this from, but on the East Coast, it's now 12 noon. So my name is Glen Mather, and I'm actually quite interested to share some things with you today. I don't normally get asked about this question, and so I've got about 30 minutes today to tell you a couple things. First of all, the story about how NuView Trust came to be, but perhaps what might be more interesting is some of the things that I've learned to do in my retirement. And I will tell you right up front, I'm not a investment expert at all, but I get a chance to talk to lots of people that are. We have thousands of clients that do their investments through us. So I get a chance to see what really smart people can do. And I know it's really helped me to be around those smart people. And a lot of those same people are in your world too. And we're going to talk you through that. But I'm going to start out a little bit. I am the founder of NuView Trust, but let me tell you, there was a little bit of life that I lived before that all that happened. And I graduated from school in Tennessee and actually went out to California to find my excitement in the world out there. Got my master's degree at USC. And I got a job at a little company called Lockheed Missiles and Space Company. Actually, it wasn't that small. I think at the time I joined them, there was 23,000 employees in Sunnyvale, California. And understand that my college had about 2,000 people in it. So it's quite a change for me. But I still remember the day that I got onboarded. It was a really exciting time. I felt like my career was ahead of me. I was going to do a lot of interesting things. My original job there wasn't that exciting. But I remember as I was onboarded, they took me through all the employment. I had to get my badges and all my paperwork worked out with the banks and everything on payroll. But they asked me, would I like to donate or contribute to a retirement plan? And I said, well, hopefully one day I'll retire. I think I was 24 at the time. I wasn't thinking too much about it, but I said, that might be interesting. Sure, tell me a little bit more. And they said, well, what you're going to do is you're going to get it taken out of your paycheck before you see it. And I go, well, that's interesting, but it's probably going to be easier for me to save. So I'll do that. So what else is it? And they said, well, you got to tell me what percentage of your pay you want to pay. And I was living in Northern California, of course, and it was expensive. It's expensive now, but it sure felt expensive when I was there. So I said, well, maybe 3%. But I'll tell you something, that I did something unique when I made that decision. I pledged to myself that every time I got a pay raise, every time I got a bonus, if I was going to get any of those, I would dedicate 50% of my raises to my retirement. I knew that 3% wasn't going to be enough. So I did that. And I ended up working there for 13 years. And so, yeah, this is the NuView narrative. Oh, let me go back. I'm flashing you too much. Here we go. So I worked there 13 years. Well, those are really interesting years. It was from 1980 to 1993. This was when personal computers came out, and I was starting to use these and starting to use tools. Things like Lotus 1-2-3 that later became sort of Excel. So I learned how to use spreadsheets. I had my own personal computer, which was really awesome in those days. And but I also found that I could track my 401k. So I was looking at that, and there wasn't many choices. I think we had 3 or 4 choices. Didn't think much more about it. Just put it in there. 13 years later, I decided to leave Lockheed. So I went and gathered all my. I made the goodbyes to everybody, and I have to go back into that same HR group that I had to go through 13 years earlier. And so I asked, what happens to my retirement? And they said, well, it can't stay here because you're no longer an employee and you can no longer make contributions to it. But you can take a distribution if you'd like. You're going to be taxed on it. And I said, no, I don't want to be taxed on it. I haven't been taxed on it before. They said, well, you can actually roll it over to an IRA. I said, how's that work? And after they told me, it was simple enough. I opened up a Schwab account and ended up rolling my IRA or my 401k into a Schwab IRA. Well, Schwab was the one that had pioneered online trading and stuff. So they had some really cool tools. So now, instead of being in 2 or 3 types of investments, I could invest as an ex-employee of Lockheed. I could invest those in anything that the stock market provided, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. Let me tell you something, working at Lockheed didn't prepare me for that. It didn't make me knowledgeable about investments. So I ended up asking friends for advice and what they're doing and everything, and I plodded on. But every day, what would happen is as I logged on to Charles Schwab and took a look at my account balances, they would always show red or green. Red basically meant that the stocks had gone down, whatever I had invested in gone down in the past 24 hours, or the red is that they've gone up. And I found it a very curious way that I have to prepare for retirement is this way. It didn't feel certain. It didn't feel like I may have a retirement. It was really awkward. Well, meanwhile, as I told you, I'm living in Northern California, and real estate was booming. I will tell you, it was booming. When I bought my first house there, we had to stand in line. Actually, it was more than stand in line to buy a house. We had to sleep out overnight in a line to actually be able to get a house. And so that's what it was like. And I saw the house prices go up and up and up and up, and I couldn't help it. That was embedding in myself that said, I like the way houses are performing better than my IRA. And so that's when I became a consultant, and I was flying back and forth across the US. And I remember grabbing an article and reading an article that said you could take your IRA and invest it in real estate. And that may be true, but not the real estate I liked, right? And no, it said in any real estate that you find. And I put it down. Unfortunately, I didn't put it in my briefcase, because back in those days we actually carried briefcases. And it was extremely frustrating to me because I wanted to find out how I could do this. So I was working in Chicago area at the time. So I'd go to all the area banks and I said, I read about the fact that you can use your IRA and invest it in real estate. Can you show me how? And they always said, no, you can't do that. Here's some CDs you can buy with me, but you can't do that. And I will tell you, it was so frustrating. So I decided to take a different tack. The company I was working for had a line of credit with LaSalle Bank. That was a big bank in Chicago. And so I said, well, maybe they'll help me in a different way. So I went to their trust department. I got an appointment. I still remember walking in there to this day, because I actually had to press the button and go up to the third floor. I'd never been in the third floor in a bank before. It was always down in the lobby, with the velvet ropes and the bad coffee. That's where I normally was. But I went up to the third floor, and I would tell you, it was very sophisticated people up there. They were all dressed better than me. And I reached the time of my appointment and sat down with this very lovely lady. And she said to me, I asked her, I want to buy real estate with my IRA. Do you know how I can do that? And she said, sure, we do it all the time. And I realized right then, it struck me that there was a whole group of people that did this, that had all this advanced knowledge, had all the capability, had people helping them, and it wasn't me. And the only reason I was being discriminated against is I didn't have a large IRA. I didn't have a lot of money. And I'm sure a lot of you have all felt that sometimes, and I felt it sometimes. I feel like I didn't belong in the room. But as soon as they told me I could do it, I said, how? And they said, well, you fill out this paperwork, you do this. And it was so exciting, because that particular day changed the rest of my life. And I think it's changed some of your lives, because that was the basis. This is the basic. For me, it all started in South Carolina. Well, I said, I thought it was Chicago. Well, I want you to understand that when you're taking your IRA out of the stock market and you're going to deal with it yourself, it becomes self-directed, and you have a custodian like NuView. Let me tell you, the responsibilities for this really shifts. It shifts to you. And it shifts to you. You're not all of a sudden smarter because you have a self-directed IRA. But what you're able to do is use your knowledge in a lot different way. Well, what you're looking at right now is Seabrook Island, South Carolina. Yes, it's pretty, and yes, it's nice. It doesn't necessarily make it a good or a bad investment. But it was a place where I had taken my family for the last 3 or 4, 5 years. We stayed there, and sometimes we stayed at Kiowa Island, which is a sister island near Charleston. Very, very nice. It's an island now that I probably can't even afford. but at that time it was affordable and it was a great place to take kids. I would notice there were lots for sale. And I'm thinking, okay, I saved this money at Lockheed and it's sitting in Charles Schwab and I'm watching this red and green. What about if I was to buy one of those lots? Real kind of unimproved lots, but it's behind a nice gate. Could I buy that in my IRA? I was told by our friends at the bank that I could do that. It was well within the rules, so I purchased it. I purchased it and sat on it for 10 years, never did anything with it. Once a year, I had to provide the bank a valuation on it. So all I do is call the realtor down at Seabrook Island. I said, can you send me whatever you think the estimate is for the value of that? They would send it to me. I would forward that to the bank. That was fine. That was it. I had to pay the insurance and the taxes on it out of my IRA. And of course, it wasn't making any revenue. It was just the valuation kept going up and up and up. Well, there came a time that I changed my job from, required me to be in Chicago, and thank goodness I had an opportunity to move to Florida. Well, when I moved to Florida, it was right after 9/11. I had been a consultant, a strategy consultant, flying all over the country. And as you might imagine, it got pretty hard to fly after 9/11, those of you old enough to remember that. And it affected my job there, and that's why I had to relocate. So I happened to read the Wall Street Journal one afternoon, and I read about this company that actually had self-directed IRAs, and you could actually do self-directed IRAs through them. I picked up the phone and called them and said, I want to open an office of yours in Florida because you're in California. And God works in amazing ways. And 3 months later, we opened a branch office of theirs that actually became NuView Trust as we see it. I was not only convinced that self-direction was something that was powerfully good for me. It's kind of like going to a good restaurant. If I really enjoy it, I want to share it with other people. And I'm sure that many, many people in Florida felt the same way. And it's been an amazing journey. We now have over $2 billion worth of IRAs and retirement plans that are also betting on themselves. These 14,000 individuals are betting on themselves that they can make better choices outside the IRA than inside the IRA. Well, back to my story. So I didn't touch it for a long period of time, but the reason why this particular picture in the South Carolina is so dear to me is I would never have dreamt that there was a business associated with this, that the business is being a custodian, which we are as a trust company here. And by the way, I didn't tell you up front, want you to understand is we're not giving you any investment advice or counsel. We're not CPAs, we're not attorneys, we're none of those things. Go seek out all those advisors for yourself. Everybody's situation is different. And of course, it's extremely important to pick really good investments. We don't do any of that. We don't buy and sell investments. We don't advise you. The only thing I'm doing up here is sharing with what I do, and I don't share anything that I'm selling or have available for sale. So you can relax about that. So that was my journey. So I started the company, and of course, I still had this piece of property in it. Now, I will tell you, the first piece of investment property I bought in Florida was not in my IRA. It's not that I didn't want it to have in the IRA, but my IRA was already wrapped up in South Carolina, and I hadn't had a chance to put a lot of contributions into another IRA because even though I'm eligible, I wasn't earning a heck of a lot when we started this company, as you might imagine. So that piece in South Carolina was all I owned. So I was able to go to the bank and borrow money, and I bought my first property. And it was right around the year 2006. Now, you don't have to be a historian. All you have to do is be old enough to understand what happened in Florida and across the country in 07 and 08. You know, it was the worst recession we've had since the 30s, since the Great Depression. And so prices got cut. So that beautiful home, 4-bedroom home that I got, 2,800 square feet, and I only paid $350,000. Sound like such a great deal. The value almost got cut in half. So here's the problem. It started going up a bit at the beginning. So if you trace this, I was going to flip this property. I was not going to hold it. So if you can imagine, I bought it for $350,000. In about 6 months, it was worth $370,000. In about 9 months, it was worth $400,000. Went over that, but I didn't sell it. You know why I didn't sell it? Any idea out there, audience? Any idea why I didn't sell it and make the money? Well, because it wasn't in my IRA. And the problem is you got to pay taxes. And if you don't hold a certain property for at least 12 months, you get short-term capital gains, which means could be as high as 39%. But capital gains after a year is only 15. So it doesn't take much logic to say, would you rather get taxed at 39 or 15? So I said, hey, it's going up. I've got time. Just before that 12-month time frame caught, it started to slide. I didn't know how long it was going to slide. I just thought it was temporary. And it started sliding and sliding. And pretty soon it slid way off the map. Almost got cut down to about $220,000 for something I paid $350 for. And I will tell you, it taught me a lot. Certainly that all real estate doesn't go up, but also the fact that if you do this in your IRA, there are no capital gains taxes. So I can buy and sell and not have any taxation until I withdraw the money. And in a Roth IRA, we're not here to really talk about IRAs per se, but if you have a Roth IRA, you're never taxed on it. So it gives you a whole sense of freedom to move in and out of investments. I didn't have that freedom. And I will tell you, I held on to that property because I didn't want to default. I didn't think it was fair to the bank to default. So I held on to it, finally sold it, almost back at even about 8 years later. So this was painful. I was paying on things. The renters wouldn't make the whole mortgage payment for me. So where am I going from this? Well, the next opportunity I had was to I sold that. And, but when you think about IRAs, I want you to expand your thought from just IRAs to HSAs too. Because I had an opportunity from someone on the West Coast. They said, Glenn, I know that you have cash in your IRA and your 401k sometimes. Do you ever lend it out? I go, I've never lent it out. I'll have to learn how to do that, but I know that you can. So he said, let me tell you what I've got. He says, I've got a truck driver that hauls for our company. He's independent. And in order for him to haul for the company, he has to own his own tractor. You've heard of a tractor and a trailer. He said, we provide the trailers, but the tractor, the thing with the engine and the steering wheel, he needs to get financing on this, but he's had bad credit because his wife has got Parkinson's disease and he has to take care of her. So he says, I know this guy. I'll vouch for him. So I'm thinking, okay, I could lend money to his IRA, or not to his IRA, for him to buy the truck, but I want some sort of assurances. This is my retirement. I'm not going to give it away just because my friend has a story about a guy. So I said, well, can I get the lien on the truck? In other words, if he doesn't pay, can I take the truck away? He said, absolutely. Okay, so I want a lien on it. What about maintaining the truck? What if he doesn't maintain the truck? I'll end up repossessing a truck that's not any good. Can I make sure I see all the maintenance records? He goes, yeah, you can do that. And I said, is there going to be work for this guy for the next 3 years? He said, you have no idea how much work we have. He said, work is not a problem. We're looking to hire more and more people like this. I say, okay, that's pretty good. How much money will he make? Well, he's going to make close to $100,000 with the overtime that he's going to get driving for us. Now, all he has to do is drive 6 miles from our freezer warehouse to the Port of Oakland. That's it. So, well, that certainly gives him enough money to pay it back. All right. Can you arrange it so when he gets paid on this, I actually get paid first? He says, what do you mean? He said, what if every time you cut that check, the first check of the month, I get the first $500 paid into my IRA? Can you do that? He said, well, that's up to the client. That's up to the borrower. I said, no problem. If we go through all those 4 different ideas and we'll write it up, I got a friend of my attorney friend to write it up for my IRA. We'll do it. Sent him, I believe it was $60,000. So I became a lender on a semi-truck for a guy whose wife was really, really sick. Now he could support his wife with my IRA. And as far as the rate on it, I decided to go 10%. I could have gone 11%, probably. Certainly the marketplace was paying 3 or 4% from banks. So my IRA did pretty good. Actually, that was my HSA. My HSA can be lent out just like my IRA. So when you're starting to think about this, I was starting to understand as running NuView that I had access to a lot of information, a lot of opportunities, but I should look beyond just an IRA. So I wanted to start buying property in Central Florida, which I did, because after 2007, 2008, they got cut in half. Everything was affordable. Interest rates were low. I went to local bank. Len, she said, you just need 25% down. It's outside the IRA, but with the IRA. Well, there were houses, really bad houses, but houses that could be repaired going for $60,000, $70,000. Well, by the time I had been working in this business for 6 or 7 years, I started to put my contributions in, get more money into my plan here. So I started buying those houses, and I bought the first house, and it was really, really good, and I watched it go up. I bought a duplex. That was a lot of fun. I wanted to buy another house, but I'm out of money, right? That's the biggest problem. Sometimes in an IRA, you get out of money. So what are you going to do? Well, I realized that my wife was working for the company, so I decided to partner with my wife. I want you to understand, as a custodian of IRAs, I've got to keep all the rules, and you've got to keep all the rules too as a client of NuView. But I understood that if I partner with someone, I don't mix the two accounts together. I could actually own half an IRA-owned asset, and my wife could own half an IRA-owned asset. So we ended up doing it. I don't like doing it. It's not the best thing to do, because now there's got to be two checks cut going in, 2 checks cut going out, separate accounts. But we do this for many, many clients here at NuView, so I decided I could do it. So we bought a property on 6th Street. I still remember the name of the street, and we ended up owning it, and we actually owned it separately but together in a partnership, and it was only, I think, just this last year that was sold. So when it's sold, it's really easy. It just goes back into each of your IRAs. And on that one, we made some good money on that, and that was really good. But what other things have I tried in my IRA? Well, I've always liked entrepreneurs. There's something about that. I think once, we took a little bit of a chance when we opened this company 20 years ago. And, that does give you gray hair, almost always does. But you kind of feel that you're in simpatico with those people. And so when someone comes to me and says, hey, would you like to invest in this? I'm always willing to listen. I don't always invest. But someone came to me with a technology play. It was actually something that can go on. Let me grab my phone here for just a minute. I'll go out of your picture and I'll come right back in, I promise. And here I am with my phone. So it's actually a device that clips onto the back of your phone. It used to be just Android, but now it's iPhone too. And it does all sorts of things. It provides incredible amount of data storage. You can put movies, you can put all sorts of stuff on it. It checks all your biometrics. And lately, it's been used for our troops, because it can be undetectable. A lot of times, the electromagnetic fields from your cell phone, if you're in warfare, enemies can find you. So these are all interesting things, but I never thought I'd be an investor in one of those. Now, should you invest your retirement plan in something like that that's risky? Well, it depends, I suppose. It depends on your appetite or risk. Obviously, I've got a little bit higher than most, but I'm also knowing that I'm getting near that retirement age. So I don't want all my stuff in these startup companies, but this has been pretty interesting. So I actually invested that in my 401k, or excuse me, my IRA. And that's been pretty interesting too. Lately, what I'm doing is I'm selling some of my single family homes, and I'm going into commercial. And the other thing is I'm lending on storage facilities. I'm not buying the storage facilities, but I'm lending on them, which is fine too. You obviously have to have success. The storage facility has to have success for it to pay back the loan. I like lending money a lot, because lending money can be very short-term or it can be very long-term, and it can be adjustable based on what the marketplace is doing. Of course, we've seen incredible run-up of interest rates in the last 12 months, and nobody forecasted that. That's why banks got in trouble a little bit. But what I wanted to do is just to spend quickly some time with you to help you understand that there's such a broad variety of things that you get to do in it. Now, as a self-directed IRA person, I think the people around you need to be a little different than if you're in the stock market. In the stock market, there's people crawling all over themselves to give you advice and counsel. And some of them are good and some of them are not. And sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. You usually have to pay them pretty well. A going rate is about 1% of the assets that they're managing or that they're giving you advice on. When you do it yourself, the good news is you don't have to pay those fees. The bad news is no one else is doing it for you, so you've got to educate yourself about it. So what I do is I tend to educate myself by investing. Now that sounds crazy, doesn't it? But it doesn't in a way. So for example, if I have someone that's created a syndication, which is a way to divide, generally you can syndicate a lot of different things. You can syndicate art, you can syndicate a lot of things, but a lot of investors at NuView invest in syndicated real estate. So if I want to do that, the nice thing is I can get to know the people that are actually doing the syndication. So unlike going into Wall Street, I can't go interview the CEO or the president of the company. Only a precious few people can, and investors aren't accessible to those people unless you're investing millions of dollars. But I can go meet all the people that are running the investments that I invest in. I like that accessibility. Second thing is I like partnering. I love partnering. So it allows me to get into more deals. If you only have $50,000, and I don't say only because $50,000 is an accomplishment to say, but if you only have $50,000 in your account, do you want to put it all in one thing and bet on it? I wouldn't want to do that. So I'd like to take $10,000 and go partner with someone else that's investing 100, and I'm only investing 10, and I get my percentage according to what I put in, but I get all the intelligence, the guidance, the experience of the person that's leading that investment. That all comes free. So next time I'm going to be willing to take a bigger chunk of my IRA and feel like I'm not doing it for the first time with a lot of money. But it's allowed me to make a lot of good investor friends. Friends that you should get to know, make sure that you have a good CPA. Make sure that you have people around you that are looking around. We have a lot of people that will convince you that a stock is better than the other. The challenge that I have with going into the stock market is every time I buy stock, I have to pay market price. It would be like going to the department store without a sale sign. There is no for sale sign at Charles Schwab. You pay what everyone else pays at that very moment for that stock. I like to shop on sale. I like to get syndication deals that are underpriced. I like to find properties that are undervalued so that my IRA, my retirement plan actually gets a head start. Because people say, certainly in real estate, that you can't control what you sell things for. You can only control what you pay for them. And there's always boom and bust cycles. Right now, we've seen in the marketplace here in 2023, in October 2023, things are going sideways. We're not sure if we're going to stumble deeper into a recession or that we're going to have a soft landing or we'll rebuild. That's up to each one of you to take your own advice on that. I will tell you though, dealing with a self-directed IRA puts you in the driver's seat and the opportunity for so much more. So if you're interested in doing something longer term with retirement, first of all, you're not going to be able to predict what you're going to be interested in investing in 10 years from now. You know, it could be cryptocurrency. It could be traditional real estate. It could be TIFs. It could be all these other things that are emerging. We don't really know. But if you don't have an account with a self-directed IRA custodian, then you're not going to be able to access these things. And sometimes the investments go very quickly. And so what I would suggest that you do is to, let me go back here. I think can you move me around there, Anna?
Yeah, where
Am I on the right one?
There's
one before that. Yeah, here's what to do next. Scan this. If you're not a member of NuView Trust, if you don't have an account with us, just scan that and it'll take you to the steps you're going to go through to have a consultation. The nice thing here is we have nothing to sell you. So like many people that would create these presentations and give them to you, and as you can see, I'm not that skilled a speaker. But I've watched people have success through this program, and I would suggest that you're going to too if you follow these steps. Get the consultation, learn a little bit more about what we do. It's fundamentally going to change your life. We do a lot of activities. We have a lot of information on our educational platform that I think you'll find very, very interesting. It's not going to be just this, but many, many more presentations on individual investments that you can hold. And I think you'll find it very, very enlightening, and it's going to move you to act in certain ways. All right. Last thing I want to tell you is the real joy of starting NuView and having thousands of clients and watching their lives change is also what we do for others. And part of our code of ethics here is the fact that we love to be passionate, we're accountable, we want to serve others, and we only deal with integrity. So we have a lot of money here, so we want to make sure that we hold things and we do what we say we're going to do. Part of what we say we're going to do is going to help other people. So we charted a new charity called Share the Love. It's been around 5 years or so. And we dedicate ourselves to helping people that don't have mobility. So while we're helping your retirement have upward mobility, we're helping people too. We travel all over the world. We donate these chairs. Our employees are very, very integral to what we do. Our profits of our company go into this. Some of our profits go into this. And we also would really invite you as a client or potential client to click on this and take a look at what we do. Go on some of the trips with us. We'll even talk about retirement if you like. That's fine. But we fundamentally change people's lives. So do we have any questions today, Anna?
We have a couple from online. The first one is, could you highlight some key lessons you've learned along the way that have contributed to your success?
Yeah, well, I think one of them is be attached to successful people, and always have a thirst for learning and be curious. You know, when I learned about cryptocurrency, I had no interest in it. It seemed so ridiculous. And now you see it's not so ridiculous. It's part of the mainstream. And, you know, fundamentally on that, I wish I had gotten into that a little bit earlier, but I invest in that. And I think that you have to be open and aware. And I think it's tendency for us to get older as we get closer to retirement, we kind of pull in and we don't make those kinds of investments to continue. I'm hoping to live a long life. So I need to continue to be part of the investment community and not retire, not buy an annuity, not buy all these safe and secure investments, but continue to invest if I'm going to be here a while.
Great. And then another question was, what advice do you have for people just starting investing with their IRA?
Well, this is a lot of people. This is most people. So we get this question a lot. And so first of all, educate yourself on our platform. Please go and spend the time to go do it. You wouldn't do anything else with your money unless you really, really got grounded. So I'd ask you to get grounded. We do these events that I'm doing every week. That's a good place to go. The first thing that I would do, like if I didn't have any more knowledge about anything else, the thing that you can do with a self-directed IRA is lend money. And you go, well, I can't lend money. I said, sure you can. I never lent a tractor trailer owner money, but I did it on that because I understood the logic. Almost anything can be done in an IRA, and at the very beginning, you feel like you can't do anything. All you need to do is meet somebody else that has an idea, and you can help fund it. So I can be an equity partner at 1%. So I don't know what you mean to get started. If it's $1, that's hard. If it's $5,000, it's not. You can do that, and I believe the limit now is $6,000 you can put into an IRA every year. By the way, if you remember my story, I left Lockheed after 13 years. That is how most IRAs get started. They don't get started with IRAs. They get started with employer plans. So if you have a 401k, a 501c3, or excuse me, not a 501c3, a thrift savings plan, a 403b, if you have any employer plans, you can roll them over into an IRA and actually fund it. So it may be possible if you're thinking you have a small IRA. What about if does your husband or do your friends have IRAs? You can partner with them. So understand it's not thinking that, oh, I can't get there. It's just saying, who else can I combine or partner with and help me get into a type of investment?
Great. And then the last question is, what inspires you?
Frustration inspired me. You know, usually you have to be in a bad spot. I started this company because the towers came down and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do next. And the thing that I brought with me is the frustration of being an IRA holder on Charles Schwab's platform and not getting to do what I wanted to do. My joy was going to be in real estate, is a big part of my joy is, and where I felt I could win was real estate. That's really what inspired me. So like, I don't have to, when I talk to my clients, I don't have to put on a different hat and say, oh, it's a client. Let me see if I can pretend to understand what they're going through. I think for the most part, I've gone through all of it. I've gone through the process of not knowing what to do, of being frustrated. Who do I talk to? I slowly, because I'm part of NuView infrastructure, I start learning about the different people and what they do, and it just blew my mind. And I felt that Wall Street was so out of touch. I was so out of touch. I'm not going to get paid till everybody else gets paid. I don't like that. And I had the chance, as I talked about, is to buy stuff on sale. That's really cool. I'm a thrift store shopper, believe it or not. I like to go to thrift stores and get stuff that I like, right? But you don't find it every day. And the problem is a lot of people that think about investing in alternatives are confused because they don't find it every day. There's not a marketplace that you can go get it. So, oh, I give up. I'm going to go back to the marketplace. Well, that's like giving up on thrift stores and going back and paying full price for everything. You can do it, but you understand what it's going to do. It's going to retard the length of time or retard you being able to retire. And by me being able to go find things off price at a far better value, my retirement's going to be richer. The good news is I'm not retiring tomorrow because I love what I do. I love our clients. I love our message. I love what we're doing to change things. And we're staffed with 50 of the most dedicated people here that will also help you change your retirement too. Thanks so much for your questions. Thanks for your loyalty, those of you that are our clients. And thank you for your interest. Those ones are about to come clients.